Trump was inaugurated and the left immediately went into full-blown meltdown mode. Instead of focusing on the actual event, they went searching for drama like it was their second job. The guest list? Problematic. The stage colors? Offensive. The number of flags? Clearly a hate crime. CBS even chimed in with a groundbreaking observation that there were too many white people, conveniently ignoring the black pastor leading the benediction. If outrage was a sport, these folks would have a gold medal by now. And the insanity didn't stop there. That same playbook from Trump's first term is running overtime in 2025. CNN's clutching pearls over Elon Musk's arm movements. AOC's out here like the self-appointed principal of morality high school, and Biden's handing out family pardons like Oprah handing out free cars. Even the ADL, who usually can't miss an opportunity to go after conservatives, had to step in and admit the left might have been going a little overboard on Musk, asking everyone to give grace. Imagine being so unhinged that even the ADL is trying to calm you down. Today, we're going to be recapping the historic events of Trump's second inauguration and all the ridiculous media circus that came along with it. So grab your popcorn because this is going to be one hell of a ride.
So we see Mark Zuckerberg on the left there with the curly hair, CEO of Meta. Tim Cook, his face is blocked, but he has the white hair, CEO of Apple. Jeff Bezos on the right there, the bald gentleman looking to his right, CEO of Amazon. The gentleman behind Mark Zuckerberg is Sundar Pichai. He's the CEO of Google. And Anderson, between those four people, plus Elon Musk from Twitter or X, those five people that I just mentioned, the four in the photograph and also Elon Musk, control so much of the information that we receive. So much is in their hands when it comes to ascertaining, monitoring, or refusing to monitor what is real, what is not real. And we're about to enter an era of deep fakes and all sorts of misinformation. And the degree to which those five gentlemen play a role or do not play a role will be pivotal in terms of where the American people are 4 years from now, in terms of understanding what is true and what is false.
You're also you said we, you're not just talking about we, the United States. You're talking about the world. Mm-hmm. All human beings on the planet. They control access to information. They're the gatekeepers in many ways to information for the entire planet.
Jake Tapper and Anderson Cooper are leaning hard into their fear-mongering routine, this time trotting out the tech billionaires as the new boogeyman. They're practically clutching their pearls over the idea that a handful of tech barons, I put that in quotes, might control your thoughts, your news, and maybe even your Netflix recommendations. But this latest meltdown isn't about information. It's about the Democrats' crumbling love affair with big tech. You see, for years, these same Democrats were big tech's biggest fans. They practically handed out participation trophies to Zuckerberg and Sundar Pichai for censoring content they didn't like. According to the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, Democrats regularly pressured tech companies like Meta, Twitter, and Google to protect democracy, which in practice meant silencing conservatives. Remember when Zuckerberg helped bury the Hunter Biden laptop story before the 2020 election? According to the New York Post, that was a team effort with Democrats giving the play-by-play. Big tech was their golden child. Until it wasn't. But now, oh, how the turntables have turned. Political reports that when Musk bought Twitter and let a few conservatives back on the platform and Zuckerberg started mumbling about freedom of expression, the left hit the panic button. Suddenly, these once beloved tech CEOs were branded as tech barons and oligarchs, in the words of Bernie Sanders and the now out of office Joe Biden, and as documented by Axios. It's like watching a rom-com turn into a messy divorce, complete with a finger-pointing, bad faith arguments, and public smear campaigns. Oh, and the irony, it's thicker than the tension after Zuckerberg was caught looking down Jeff Bezos' wife's shirt. According to The Atlantic, the whole crusade against big tech is just the left's way of blaming someone else for the mess they've made. They're deflecting from their own failures while playing populist heroes, hoping nobody remembers how cozy they used to be with these same billionaires. Meanwhile, CNN amplifies the drama, hyping fears of an impending tech apocalypse, all while ignoring how Democrats spent years whispering sweet nothings into big tech's ears. Meanwhile, public trust in these platforms is cratering. Reports from Fox News and The Federalist shows how many Americans are fed up with censorship, surveillance, and political bias. But instead of owning up to their role in this mess, Democrats are now painting themselves as the saviors of the little guy. It's laughable, like a firefighter who starts the blaze, then shows up with a bucket of water to take the credit. What we're seeing isn't a moral stand. It's a PR stunt wrapped in fear, hoping we'll all forget who actually lit the match. Spoiler alert, it was the left.
So just to look at this again, this crowd, every single person here is paying attention and they are fully engaged. He is a hero. He is a hero to them. I just want to look at that salute that he gave again, just if anybody missed it, we'll just show it again. He's just wrapped up here. You can hear all right, so we just showed that. We just showed that.
Right. It's worth
Salute.
noting, it was quick. I think our viewers are smart and they can take a look at that, but it certainly was, it's not something that you typically see at American political rallies, put it that way.
No, it was not something that you usually would see. And it was quick, as you point out, it was very quick, but it was in a moment of intensity for him as he came out dancing and then he did that.
What we just watched was one of the most blatant attempts at character assassination disguised as journalism. CNN basically handed viewers a pitchfork and said, "We're not saying you should use it, but you know what to do." Their coverage of Elon Musk's so-called salute is like watching someone try to start a conspiracy theory with a shrug and a wink. They're replaying the clip on loop, whispering, "We're not saying anything, but doesn't it look a little, Nazi-like?" It's the kind of suggestive framing that feels less like journalism and more like gossip at a PTA meeting. By repeatedly calling it not something you typically see in American political rallies, they're basically handing the audience a flashlight and nudging them toward the darkest corner of the room. Subtle? Not so much. Now let's just say it outright. CNN is trying to frame Elon Musk's gesture, shown completely out of context and without his words, as a Nazi salute. They conveniently left out the part where Musk said, "My heart goes out to you," before he extends his hand, which totally changes the meaning of the gesture. Instead, they zoomed in on the hand motion like it was a Zapruder movie, hoping their audience would make the leap from enthusiastic wave to Fourth Reich. It's the kind of editing that would make reality television producers blush. And they're so sneaky about it too. It's insane. They toss in lines like, "It was quick," and "It's worth a look," pretending to leave it up to the audience. But when you replay something enough times with ominous, suggestive commentary, you're not asking people to think for themselves. You're handing them a coloring book and pointing to the red crayon. They're practically begging viewers to gasp, "Oh, is that what I think it is?" While they sit back with their best, "Who, me? No. I didn't do that. I didn't tell you to think that. No, we would never do that. We're CNN. We are the epitome of credibility. Trust us." And of course, the manner in which CNN presents the whole situation gives them the plausible deniability they need. If anyone calls them out, they can just shrug and say, "We were just showing the footage." Sure, and I'm just showing my dog a steak without implying he should eat it. Pretty sure he is not going to do it, because we all know dogs. And they would never eat a piece of steak that's laid out directly in front of them. Anyway, the entire segment is a carefully choreographed game of connect the dots, except CNN drew half the picture for you and is acting surprised when you finish it. The best part, their repeated insistence that the audience is smart enough to figure it out. Oh, please. That's not a compliment. It's a dare. They're essentially saying, "We're not going to spell it out for you. Come on, buddy. You see it, right? You see it." It's the journalistic equivalent of nudging someone and winking so hard your face cramps. So let's be real. CNN wants people to associate Musk with something heinous, and they're relying on selective editing, loaded commentary, and a whole lot of bad faith to do it. And so in the spirit of debunking these sour fools, here is the full context of Musk's words and his gesture.
This was a fork in the road of human civilization. Okay. There are elections that come and go. Some elections are, important, some are not. But this one, this one really mattered. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. Thank you. My heart goes out to you.
Sure, the gesture might have been a little awkward. Let's be honest, it's not winning any awards for grace, but it's obvious it wasn't what CNN is trying to spin it into. When you hear the full context of Musk's speech, it all makes sense. He says, "Thank you, my heart goes out to you," while touching his chest and then throwing his arms outward like he's launching his gratitude into the audience. It's heartfelt, maybe a little clunky, but harmless. Yet somehow CNN saw this and thought, "You know what? Let's make this weird." And weird, they indeed made it. By muting the clip, they stripped away Musk's words, leaving viewers with just the gesture and all the ambiguity they could milk from it. This wasn't an accident. It was a calculated move. CNN knew that with the audio included, most people would have shrugged and moved on. Even their own anchors admitted that no one in the crowd reacted negatively, probably because they heard what Musk actually said. But with the sound off, suddenly, it's a sinister mystery worthy of dramatic overanalysis. This kind of editing is like serving a half-cooked meal and hoping no one notices it's raw in the middle. By presenting the gesture in isolation, CNN created a controversy out of thin air, banking on viewers to fill in the blanks with the worst assumptions. In reality, Musk's move was the human equivalent of an awkward thank you card. Maybe not pretty, but sincere. But CNN couldn't leave it at that. They needed a scandal. See, this is how they pay their bills. And right now it's Trump time, baby. They gotta bring the money in. So they took a harmless moment, ran it through their spin cycle, and came out with something so contrived, it's almost impressive. Almost. But here's where it gets really awkward for CNN. Even the ADL, an organization that's practically allergic to giving conservatives the benefit of the doubt, came out and debunked this narrative. They said on X, "This is a delicate moment. It's a new day, and yet so many are on edge. Our politics are inflamed, and social media only adds to the anxiety." It seems that Elon Musk made an awkward gesture in a moment of enthusiasm, not a Nazi salute, but again, we appreciate that people are on edge. In this moment, all sides should give one another a bit of grace, perhaps even the benefit of the doubt, and take a breath. This is a new beginning. Let's hope for healing and work toward unity in the months and years ahead. Folks, when the ADL steps in and says, "Hey guys, maybe calm down on this one," it's not what you think. You know the wheels have officially come off the outrage machine. But that didn't stop AOC from feeding into the outrage meat grinder. She responded to the ADL on X saying, "Just to be clear, you are defending a Heil Hitler salute that was performed and repeated for emphasis and clarity. People can officially stop listening to you as any sort of reputable source of information now. You work for them. Thank you for making that crystal clear to all." AOC's response is like handing out maps to nowhere. She knows it's a lie, but chaos is the ultimate goal. Democrat Representative Jerry Nadler also reacted on X saying, "I never imagined we would see the day when what appears to be a Heil Hitler salute would be made behind the presidential seal. This abhorrent gesture has no place in our society and belongs in the darkest chapters of human history. I urge all of my colleagues to unite in condemning this hateful gesture for what it is, anti-Semitism." Jerry Nadler's reaction is peak outrage theater. He sees an awkward gesture, ignores the full context, and somehow lands on the Third Reich. Talk about skipping all the steps between A and Z. Musk literally said, "My heart goes out to you." But I guess Nadler's heart was too busy sprinting toward the nearest fake scandal to notice. It's not anti-Semitism, Jerry. It's gratitude with a questionable choreography. Pipe down. By invoking the darkest chapters of human history, Nadler isn't condemning hate. He's just auditioning for the role of most dramatic overreaction. If there's one thing this proves, it's that Nadler doesn't need context, facts, or logic. He just needs a headline and a soapbox. Honestly, if he spent half as much time addressing real issues as he does inventing them, we might actually get somewhere. But hey, why let reality ruin a perfectly good performance?
Help us understand what transpired.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Elon Musk does not appear to be on the podium with the president now, even though he was with him throughout the day. I don't know if that was scheduled or not. Oh, we did see Mr. Musk during that speech, and we saw the gesture. I don't know whether the audience here interpreted it the way it was subsequently interpreted on social media. It certainly appears to be a Heil Hitler, but at the time, what he was saying, we went back to the transcript, and I remember him saying it, is he was saying, "My heart goes out to you." So he was gesturing to his chest. And then, of course, there was the hand straight out, which harkens back, of course, for a lot of folks to the Nazi salute. But we didn't see that reaction here. There wasn't like a gasp or a pause or any even reinforcement of the gesture. So it's a little hard to tell from where we sat the meaning of it.
Round of applause for PBS. They have just delivered commentary that is like watching someone try to light a fire with wet matches. It's clumsy, unnecessary, and you're not even sure what they're actually trying to accomplish. The reporter admits Musk said, "My heart goes out to you," and the crowd didn't react negatively, yet she still manages to slide in. It certainly appears to be a Heil Hitler. Really? That's the takeaway? It's like saying, "We know it's not what it looks like, but wouldn't it be juicy if it was?" And the whole hearkening back bit, that's just the cherry on this cake of nonsense. They're basically saying no one here thought it was offensive, and the words clearly show what he meant, But let's throw in a Nazi comparison for fun. It's not reporting, it's passive-aggressive fear-mongering. This isn't helping anyone understand what actually transpired, unless what transpired was a reporter deciding to spice up a boring day with a completely baseless scandal. If PBS wanted to stay classy, they'd stick to the facts. Musk was awkwardly thanking the crowd, and nobody there thought twice about it. But no, they just had to toss in a little hysteria for flavor, proving that even PBS can't resist stirring the pot. It's like they're saying, we're above the fray, but also, here's a conspiracy theory we lightly gift-wrapped for your imagination. Yet another reason to cut their funding. Anyway, Elon later responded on X saying, frankly, they need better dirty tricks. The everyone is Hitler attack is so tired. Elon is absolutely right. The left's tactics have become old, tired, and painfully predictable. The everyone is Hitler narrative has been used so often and so recklessly that it's lost all meaning. What was once a powerful and important label reserved for genuine evil has now been watered down to a catch-all insult for anyone who steps out of line with their agenda or does something seemingly awkward. At this point, most people see right through it, recognizing it as a default smear when substantive arguments are nowhere to be found. This overuse hasn't just diminished the impact of the accusation, it's desensitized the public to the real atrocities those terms once represented. By labeling everyone and everything they don't like as Nazi or Hitler, the left has turned what should be a serious and specific condemnation into a political cliche. It's a tactic born out of a desperation, and as Musk points out, is so overplayed that it no longer lands. The irony is, these predictable attacks reveal more about the weakness of their arguments than about the people they're trying to discredit.
I have to say, I'm looking at this crowd, I do not see many people of color. Has anybody else besides me observed that? I'm fascinated by why that is.
On Martin Luther King Jr. Day, the most notable and one of the most high-ranking is Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, first black woman to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court, notably appointed by Joe Biden as he wanted to follow in the footsteps of Jimmy Carter in appointing a number of women and black women to the federal judgeships.
General Brown, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, is probably there. In fact, that might be the side of his head. No, because he's, well, I can't tell what uniform that is. I can't
tell from this.
But he was undoubtedly there.
Yeah, I saw Jim Clyburn.
Shout out to CBS. You just produced the perfect parody of performative wokeness. Bravo. This whole segment is a masterclass in self-owning hypocrisy. The left is so hyper-focused on race that they can't resist turning every crowd shot into a diversity headcount. Instead of seeing a group of people attending an event, they immediately reduce everyone to skin color, declaring, I don't see many people of color. As if that wasn't bad enough, they then proceed to play racial Where's Waldo, scanning the crowd and listing off every black person they find. Oh, there's Ketanji Brown Jackson. Oh, maybe General Brown's head. Whoa, wait, Jim Clyburn over there. It's beyond cringe and outright absurd. And the cherry on top, right after they lament the supposed lack of diversity, the broadcast cuts to a shot with a black person prominently in the frame. You couldn't script a better moment of irony if you tried. They're so busy trying to score woke points that they don't even realize how ridiculous they look. Instead of fighting racism, they've reduced individuals to racial checkboxes, separating people by the very thing they claim shouldn't matter. The real kicker is how they think this is progressive. They genuinely believe obsessive fixation on race is some moral high ground, when all it does is reveal their own bias. By constantly pointing out who's black, who's not, and making it a central focus of the conversation, they end up perpetuating the very stereotypes they claim to oppose. It's not just hypocritical, it's like watching someone trip over their own soapbox while preaching about how balanced they are. Truly, the lack of self-awareness is astounding. Anyway, on to President Trump. He wasted no time on January 20th, 2025, signing nearly 200 executive orders to reverse his predecessor's policies and implement a sweeping vision for the country. These orders focus heavily on strengthening border security with measures to combat illegal immigration, address foreign threats, and clarify the military's role in protecting the U.S. territorial integrity. Trump also redefined the federal hiring process to restore a merit-based system, eliminating diversity mandates that prioritize characteristics over qualifications. The orders target environmental regulations by halting radical policies that burden businesses and infrastructure development while prioritizing domestic energy production to reduce dependence on foreign resources. Public safety measures include include enhancing protections against terrorism, restoring accountability for senior government officials, and addressing election interference. Trump also took aim at government inefficiency by establishing a department focused on cutting waste and aligning federal agencies with his America First agenda, the so-called DOGE department. Additionally, Trump made moves to protect constitutional rights, including ending federal censorship efforts, reinforcing freedom of speech, and repealing policies that restricted individual liberties. Economic relief was another priority, with directives aimed at lowering living costs, increasing resource availability, and addressing inflation. These policies reflect a comprehensive approach to reclaiming traditional values, bolstering national security, and prioritizing the American people. Through these actions, Trump set a clear tone for his presidency: decisive, bold, and unapologetically focused on restoring American strength and sovereignty. Now, he signed these executive orders in 3 different moments throughout the day. At one point, he signed them at a table mounted at the Capital One Arena, and later in the day, he signed more at the Oval Office, where he also took questions from the press.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Yes.
Full pardon.
Full pardon or commutation?
Full pardon. We have about 6 commutations in there where we're doing further research. Okay. Nice to see you again. So this is a big one. Anything you want to explain about this? We hope they get them. We hope they come out tonight, frankly. Approximately 1,500 people. Six commutations.
The decision to issue full pardons or commutations for approximately 1,500 individuals tied to January 6 is a critical response to what many now see as a gross miscarriage of justice. Initially, like many others, I was angered and disavowed the events of that day. Watching the Capitol breached and the certification process disrupted was deeply troubling. However, as more facts have come to light, it's become clear that the media and the left deliberately exaggerated the severity of what happened, framing it as an insurrection for political gain. According to investigative reporting from The Intercept and Real Clear Investigations, the events of January 6 lacked the planning, coordination, and intent necessary to meet the legal definition of an insurrection. Was it chaotic? Yes. Disgraceful? Certainly. But was it an organized coup? Absolutely not. One of the most persistent narratives pushed by the left is the claim that people died on January 6th. However, according to the Washington Post and Politico, the only person who died as a direct result of the events that day was Ashley Babbitt, an unarmed woman shot by Capitol Police. The other deaths often cited, such as Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, were later revealed to be unrelated. Sicknick, for example, died of natural causes a day after the riot, as confirmed by the medical examiner and reported by the Associated Press. Other fatalities attributed to January 6 were either medical emergencies or occurred days later, such as heart attacks or strokes. Despite these facts, the left continues to exploit these tragedies to inflate the narrative of January 6 as a deadly event, according to the Wall Street Journal. The hypocrisy becomes even clearer when comparing the response to the left's George Floyd riots in 2020. According to the New York Times and Axios, those riots caused over $2 billion in damages, led to the destruction of hundreds of businesses, and resulted in multiple deaths. Yet the participants in those riots were often praised or excused, with charges against many being dropped. By contrast, January 6 participants, many of whom simply entered the Capitol and committed no violent acts, have been held in solitary confinement, denied due process, and handed excessive charges. As the National Review pointed out, this double standard is not just hypocritical, but reflects a dangerous weaponization of the justice system. Further complicating the narrative is the role of federal agents and informants. According to the Epoch Times and the Washington Examiner, FBI agents were embedded in the crowd on January 6th, raising questions about their involvement. Were they simply observing, or did their actions contribute to the escalation? This lack of transparency has fueled suspicions that the chaos may have been exploited, if not encouraged, to serve as a political tool. Raising further questions about Democrat leadership's role in January 6, Nancy Pelosi and other Democrat leaders made critical decisions regarding Capitol security that remain largely unexamined by the mainstream media. According to reports from the Washington Examiner and the Federalist, Capitol Police requested additional security, including National Guard assistance, in the days leading up to the event. These requests were reportedly denied by Pelosi's office and other congressional leaders, citing concerns over optics and the potential appearance appearance of a militarized Capitol. This decision left the Capitol severely underprepared for the large crowd that gathered. As Speaker of the House, Pelosi had significant influence over Capitol security decisions, but has repeatedly deflected questions about her involvement. Former Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund has publicly stated that leadership ignored his warnings, further fueling speculation about whether politics influenced their decisions. The failure to prioritize safety over appearances contributed significantly to the chaos that unfolded, raising serious concerns about the accountability at the highest levels. All in all, these pardons don't excuse the chaos of January 6th, but they do recognize the gross inequities in how justice has been applied. The left has openly justified riots, looting, and violence when it suits their agenda, yet they vilified nonviolent January 6 participants as domestic terrorists. The pardons are a step toward addressing this imbalance, as well as the broader issues of political bias with the justice system. As the Federalist notes, the weaponization of law enforcement and the courts to target political enemies is a dangerous precedent, and these actions push back against that troubling trend.
What is this one?
Withdrawing from the World Health Organization, sir?
Ooh, that's a big one. So we paid $500 million to World Health when I was here, and I terminated it. China with 1.4 billion people. We have 350 to pay. Nobody knows what we have because so many people came in illegally, but let's say we have 325. They had 1.4 billion. They were paying 39 million. We were paying 500 million. It seemed a little unfair to me. So that wasn't the reason, but I dropped out. They offered me to come back for 39 million. In theory, it should be less than that, but you know. And when Biden came back, they came back for 500 million. He knew that you could have come back for 39 million. They wanted us back so badly, so we'll see what happens. Pretty sad to think of it. China pays 39 million and we pay 500 million, and China's a bigger country.
Withdrawing from the World Health Organization is a terrific move for several reasons, starting with the WHO's blatant mismanagement of the COVID-19 pandemic. As detailed in reports from the Wall Street Journal and Politico, the organization delayed declaring COVID-19 a global health emergency and uncritically repeated China's early misinformation about the virus, including the false claim that there was no human-to-human transmission. These failures undermined global preparedness and revealed the organization's susceptibility to political influence, particularly from authoritarian regimes like China. The financial disparity is another glaring issue. The United States was contributing $500 million annually, while China, with a population over 4 times larger, paid just $39 million. This isn't just unfair. It highlights how global organizations like the WHO exploit U.S. funding while bending to the interests of nations that contribute far less. This imbalance is a stark reminder of why sovereign nations should prioritize their interests over the demands of unelected global bureaucrats. Allowing such organizations to dictate public policy diminishes national sovereignty and accountability to citizens. By withdrawing, the U.S. sends a clear message. It will not be held hostage by global entities that fail to deliver results while imposing policies that may not align with American interests. Public health, like all policy decisions, should be driven by transparent, accountable governance, not the will of distant, unaccountable bureaucrats. Rejoining at the original $500 million contribution, as done under Biden, only reinforces the WHO's unchecked power while demonstrating a lack of negotiation for fair treatment. This decision affirms the principle that countries should remain sovereign and ensure taxpayer dollars are spent in ways that directly benefit their people, not to prop up ineffective global organizations. Anyway, when it comes to immigration, Trump made a mention of it during his inaugural speech.
First, I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release, and I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country. Under the orders I signed today, we will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. And by invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks, bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil, including our cities and inner cities.
Trump almost immediately got to work on one of his oldest campaign promises, securing the southern border, a promise so old it might as well have been on his 2016 campaign merch. Declaring a national emergency at the border is a bold move to tackle a crisis that's been bleeding resources, increasing crime, and basically turning the border into a free-for-all. With over 2.7 million illegal crossings in 2022 alone, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the situation is less welcome to America and more welcome to chaos. It's like hosting a party and realizing way too late you forgot to hire security. Now, the financial toll of Biden's open border policy isn't just big, it's massive. According to the Center for Immigration Studies, illegal immigration is costing taxpayers $150 billion a year. Border states like Texas are spending an estimated $4 billion annually trying to patch up the mess. That's money that could have gone towards schools, roads, or maybe fixing the Wi-Fi at the DMV. Who knows? Instead, it's vanishing into a border crisis black hole that just keeps getting deeper. Then there's the human cost. Cartels are having a field day with a border as open as a 24-hour diner, smuggling in drugs, weapons, and people like it's an Amazon Prime delivery service. Fentanyl, trafficked largely through the southern border, is now the leading cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 45, according to the CDC. And let's not forget the 12,000 illegal immigrants arrested in 2021 who were convicted of violent crimes like murder or assault, according to ICE. It's like leaving the front door open and wondering why you keep getting robbed. And his stance on bringing back policies like remaining Mexico and ending catch and release aren't just good slogans. They worked. Back in the first Trump administration, border apprehensions dropped by 75% from May 2019 to May 2020, according to CBP. Now add in designated cartels as foreign terrorist organizations and invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, and you've got a recipe for cleaning up this mess with the kind of force that'll make cartels wish they stayed home. Now, this isn't just about fixing the border, it's about fairness. While the left tries to spin this as something extreme, all Trump's doing is prioritizing Americans for once. Instead of draining resources on an endless crisis, this plan refocuses on security, public safety, and putting taxpayers first. Because let's face it, if America is going to be paying billions, it shouldn't be to clean up someone else's mess. Now, the effects of Trump's border policy were immediate. One of the things he did was shut down the CBP One App. And within hours, migrants in Mexico, some just moments away from their scheduled parole appointments, learned their access to the system had been revoked. A video of a woman crying after discovering her appointment was canceled quickly went viral after that. While this is framed by some as a moment of sympathy, it's a clear demonstration of enforcing America's sovereignty and restoring order at the border. With a national emergency declared and troops heading down to the southern border, caravans of migrants have already started turning back. Now, for context, the CBP One App was introduced by Biden's administration in January 2023, and it was intended as a tool to streamline asylum processing. Migrants could use the app to schedule appointments at U.S. ports of entry for parole consideration, bypassing the often chaotic traditional methods of border crossing. However, in its short lifespan, the app facilitated the entry of over 1 million migrants into the United States, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection. This unprecedented number overwhelmed resources and created significant challenges for border states and communities, straining public services and local economies. By shutting down the app, Trump effectively ended a system that many viewed as exacerbating the border crisis rather than alleviating it. While some may see this move as harsh, it addresses the critical need for an orderly, secure, and sovereign approach to managing immigration. The closure of CBP One, combined with the deployment of troops and the declaration of a national emergency, sends a clear message. America's borders will no longer operate under a system that prioritizes unchecked entry over security and accountability. Anyway, later in the day, Trump fulfilled another immigration-related campaign promise by signing this executive order.
This next order relates to the definition of birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment of the United States.
Good. That's a good one. Birthright. That's a big one.
What about that one in the courts? That one is likely to be challenged.
Could be. I think we have good grounds, but you could be right. I mean, you'll find out. It's ridiculous. We're the only country in the world that does this with birthright, as you know. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. But, you know, we'll see. We have very good grounds. People have wanted to do this for decades.
Ending birthright citizenship is a bold move by Trump, aimed at addressing what many see as one of the core issues driving illegal immigration and exploitation of the U.S. immigration system. Birthright citizenship, as outlined in the 14th Amendment, has long granted automatic citizenship to anyone born on U.S. soil, regardless of their parents' immigration status. By signing an executive order to end this practice, Trump is directly challenging the interpretation of that amendment, as noted by the Washington Post and the Federalist. This policy change is a response to the growing trend of birth tourism and illegal immigration, where individuals come to the U.S. specifically to give birth, ensuring their child gains automatic citizenship. According to the New York Times, this practice has led to a surge in anchor babies and incentivized misuse of U.S. resources. Supporters of ending birthright citizenship argue that it will deter illegal immigration and reduce the financial burden on taxpayers. In fact, a report from the Center for Immigration Studies estimates that U.S. taxpayers spend over $2.4 billion annually on health care and welfare benefits for children born to non-citizens. The significance of this decision cannot be overstated. It represents a direct challenge to over 150 years of legal precedent tied to the 14th Amendment, specifically the clause stating that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. Politico notes that this interpretation has remained largely uncontested in modern legal history. Critics argue this move undermines constitutional protections, while supporters say it's a necessary step to secure the nation's sovereignty. Legal challenges are inevitable, and the Wall Street Journal highlights that courts will have to weigh decades of judicial precedent against Trump's interpretation. If upheld, this policy would fundamentally alter the fabric of U.S. immigration law, sending a clear message that citizenship is not automatic or exploitable, but tied to legal residency and allegiance to the country. The Heritage Foundation argues that this could significantly reduce incentives for illegal immigration. For Trump supporters, it's a decisive action to close what they see as a loophole that burdens taxpayers and undermines the integrity of the nation's borders. For opponents, it's a controversial and potentially unconstitutional shift that could impact millions. Either way, this marks a significant moment in America's ongoing debate over immigration policy. Now, this issue is personal to me. My parents are from Brazil, and I was born in the United States while my dad was here legally, attending NYU to earn his CPA degree and working at Deloitte. Shortly after I was born, he was transferred back to Brazil, and that's where I grew up. Even though I didn't choose to be an American citizen, I've always considered it to be an incredible honor and privilege. And when I was old enough, I decided to move back to the U.S. because I love this country and I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. It's not just where I live, it's my home. Furthermore, philosophically, I connect with the principles that define America: individual freedom, the right to speak your mind, and the entrepreneurial spirit that rewards hard work and innovation. As a Christian, I value the foundation of faith and morality that underpins much of American culture. I also strongly believe in the importance of gun rights, ensuring people can protect themselves and their families. This is a country where productivity and work ethic are respected, where what you put in is what you get out. And that resonates with me deeply. These are not just abstract ideas. They're the guiding principles that make this country unique and worth fighting for. That's why I support ending birthright citizenship. Being an American should reflect respect, commitment, and allegiance to this country, along with a genuine interest to contribute to your community. Unfortunately, the system is being exploited by people who see it as a shortcut, gaining access without truly embracing those values. For me, it's different. None of my family lives here. I'm here entirely on my own because I deeply value this nation and everything it stands for. Supporting this policy isn't about exclusion, it's about preserving the integrity of American citizenship, ensuring it remains a symbol of dedication and responsibility to this great country that many have sacrificed their lives to make it what it is today. Anyway, another one of the big announcements that Trump made that has a lot of people talking is this.
As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
The gender insanity is finally over. This decision reaffirms the reality that gender is grounded in biological fact, not subjective ideology, and pushes back against the confusion and divisiveness that have infiltrated areas like education, healthcare, and sports. This move is essential to protecting fairness, especially in women's sports, where the erosion of biological distinctions has led to clear disadvantages for female athletes. According to organizations like Save Women's Sports, policies allowing biological males to compete in women's categories have undermined decades of progress made under Title IX. Trump's policy ensures that women and girls can compete on a level playing field once again. Now, beyond sports, this decision brings much-needed clarity to public systems that rely on consistent definitions of gender, such as healthcare, crime statistics, and workplace protections. Overly fluid definitions have undermined these systems, creating chaos where there should be order. Recognizing the reality of only two genders ensures the systems function effectively and fairly for everyone. Now, this isn't about erasing anyone's identity. It's about maintaining a foundation of truth and fairness in law and society. While the left often frames this issue as one of inclusion, the result has been policies that confuse, alienate, and sometimes harm the very people they claim to protect. Trump's policy takes a stand for common sense, ensuring that America's approach to gender reflects reality, fairness, and the values that most Americans support. So what do you think? Are we finally on the path to restoring common sense and fairness in America? With policies that reaffirm biological truth, secure our borders, and prioritize respect, commitment, and contribution to this country, there's real hope that we can pull ourselves out of the pit the left tried to drive us into. This is a chance to reclaim what makes America great: truth, integrity, and the freedom to live without being forced to bow to ideological insanity. Can we finally turn the page and rebuild a nation rooted in reality and fairness? It's time to take this momentum and keep moving forward, because the future of America is worth fighting for. And the next battleground will be California turning red, and then Los Angeles turning red. It's going to happen. Anyway, folks, you tell me what you think in the comments down below. Have a terrific day. Peace.